Hi, Ellie. Nice to speak to you. Just want to start off with the unfortunate news yesterday that you had a positive test that came back. How big a surprise was that? Because I understand the player or staff member is actually feeling fine.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, an asymptomatic positive result. I think it's a bit of a shock, naturally, because we'd had very good results and a clean bill of health so far. But at the same time, we have to expect potentially in this day and age that to happen, and we needed to be able to adjust, and we can do that because of the good work that everybody's put in. And I think for us as a team, we've got a fully fit squad. Everybody's in a good place.
How much has it affected your plans for the weekend? Was it someone that was going to be involved in the game?
Well, patient confidentiality. Didn't you know I was a doctor? I can't say too much, but no, look, listen. Like I said, it was a shock. But in these times, how big a shock can it truly be? And we've got a number of players and options. We've got staff that can do various roles as well. So we're in a good place, Michelle, and I truly believe that given the short window we've had to prepare, we couldn't have done any more with that time.
How's it been being back? Because I understand at training, like, you have to wear masks, and obviously the players don't when they're running around. But in this hot weather, it's almost like a pre-season feel with all these extra elements. So how are you preparing to hit the ground running? And hopefully for you, the target is the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we feel we're in a good place, but I suppose the true test is when the games come around. I think we've got a good group anyway. We certainly try and recruit good people first and foremost, and players that love playing football rather than being footballers, and there is a difference sometimes. So we was very strict on the regime when they were away from the football club, obviously in the break that we had through COVID, and they've come back extremely well. So I don't think fitness will be a problem, and I'm really pleased in one sense that we had the time to work, because we had a lot of new players, and the one difficulty we've had is how much turnaround we've had, if you like, in individuals. So any extra time sort of coaching and putting together the partnerships and building that cohesion can only be good for a team like us in the position that we're in.
So I guess one of the advantages of this whole situation, which is horrible, is having someone like Benik Afobe back, who had that horrible injury. How big a boost is it having him for this run-in?
It's a huge boost. I think Benik's an unbelievable character, and he's a real sort of positive influence around the group, as well as, of course, being a very good football player. And I think, like in life, there's winners and losers out of this situation. And I think certainly Benik, for all the hard work he's put in, and such a big disappointment for us to lose such a key man as early on in the season as we did, plus his own personal tragedy, this has really given him this sort of focus, if you like, to get fit and be a part of the last 9 and hopefully 12 games. And he's in good shape. I mean, look, we've got to be careful. He hasn't played in nearly 9 months now, so we've got to tiptoe into it rather than sort of expect him to come out the blocks flying. But he's in a good place, and we had a behind closed doors friendly yesterday, and he scored 2 goals in that as well. So I think that'll do him the world of good. Just scoring goals always adds to the confidence of these boys.
Absolutely. Now, you've got Blackburn first up. Logistically, that's quite a long trip. So what are the plans in place to get you there safely? Are you staying over? How's it going to work?
Yeah, we put it to the players. I think we made sure we gave really good input, and it was 100% in terms of they wanted to stay up there. I think we've got a decent away record. Our preparation is good. Obviously, times are different to pre-COVID, and we're having to take over a whole hotel, which I think obviously works quite well for the hotel as well. Every fine little detail, the players have got individual rooms. Our own chef is going up that's in our testing system to serve the food. Even the way the food's going to be served, it's sort of like a carvery type situation rather than a table service or a buffet. and meeting rooms have got to be big enough to be able to social distance as well. So yeah, it's going to be different, and I think that the clubs and the personnel that adapt and that can cope, if you like, through good organisation. And I think that confidence will come from the preparation. And to be fair to the guys here, they've been fantastic, likes of Andy Rolls and Sam Morse, who are our COVID officers down here, and the level of detail that they've gone into, both in-house but also the travel and the preparation, has been absolutely top-notch.
And with having a positive test in the camp, has that made everyone a little bit more nervous and on edge? Because I'm sure you were being really careful anyway, but it just adds a little bit of uncertainty, doesn't it? You're due for testing Thursday.
Yeah, we test tomorrow. So I think, look, we have had one test since we got that result with everybody clean back. And I think, if anything, that was the nervous one, because what we didn't want was we didn't want it to be a Bristol City training ground thing, if you know what I mean. You can't stop kids going to school or players doing the shopping or players' wives doing the shopping and picking it up that way. But obviously the hygiene and the cleanliness and the protocol at the training ground is an absolute must. So, yeah, I'm very, very confident that the individual didn't pick it up from the training ground. And obviously that's a really important part of it.
Yeah, and with Blackburn then a long time to prepare for this game, but then again a short space of time in terms of training. How are you going into it? Because we don't actually know what players will be available, because we could yet have different tests and positive tests, couldn't we?
Yeah, it's going to be very fluid. I think we're going to have to. I was like just speaking to the players the other day, and like a bit of a motivational talk, if you like. But there's a lot of causes, you know, and each individual will have their own cause. And we've got a lot of staff members that are unable to be with us at the moment, that are fantastic and put unbelievable work in behind the scenes. And obviously they're with us in spirit, but whether they're furloughed or are not allowed into the training ground, that becomes a huge cause for us, obviously, to give absolutely everything, as well as the personal causes of the careers and the dream that's on offer of obviously getting into the Premier League. So, yeah, I think, like I say, we're in a good place. I feel like since I've been here, there's only been one spell where we've truly had a fully fit squad that are compatible, organised to the absolute maximum. And at the moment, I feel we've got that. So it's a good thing that we're going into this game. Yes, it's going to be a really big test, because Blackburn obviously have had a fantastic season, and they're fighting as well as us for a shout in the playoffs. So it will be interesting. And what you might get in the first sort of certainly couple of weeks of the season is some crazy results, and that will be very interesting to see. And hopefully we're on the right side of those results.
Yeah, just the last couple from me then. Away from the football, we've seen the Black Lives Matters protests and marches. Bristol's really become a focal point since the Colston statue was pulled down. We spoke to Jimmy Patterson about this yesterday. I just wondered if you'd spoken to the players about it, Bristol being, you know, or having worldwide attention because of that, and what your thoughts were on what's happened.
Yeah, well, I think the football club and the city is really diverse in Bristol. And I think that's such a beautiful thing in Bristol. I think there's football or the young people in the city. And the key for me is education. Like, you know what I mean? Black Lives Matter, I think, movement. I think the demonstrations and bringing attention to the important subject is the key. And I think that certainly our young, particularly around Bristol, have to be able to be taught what the right and wrongs of the world, both past and present.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, last one. No crowd. I'm sure it's something you've talked about at length. How have you prepared your team for having no one in the crowd? At home, maybe you're going to have some cardboard cutouts, but away games, it's completely down to the away team, isn't it? So what's the thought process for keeping that intensity without a crowd?
Yeah, I think that will serve very differently to a normal football match. Obviously, there is the crowd noise. We tried it in training. We tried it in behind closed doors friendlies. I feel that it is a little bit synthetic, and it does feel that way. Listen, nothing beats that buzz of a crowd. Let me tell you, when you're the little kid playing in the playground or playing on your own in the park, you are visualizing scoring a goal and running over to the crowds. I mean, that adulation in front of the fan base is so important. So I don't think anything's ever going to replicate that. But obviously the arousal level in terms of the match state and the performance state is really important. And that might work both ways. You'll have some players that actually relax a little bit more and probably are better in possession than maybe they would have been in a match day with fans there, because the intensity and the pressure is not there. But at the same time, the players that are very good at performing in front of crowds sometimes might be a little bit under aroused, and we might need to just like give them a little shot of adrenaline, if you like, somehow to be able to perform as they will. But like I say, I'm pretty confident in the way that we play. I'm confident in the way that the players understand the system, and then it's about executing as we cross the white line. Of course, there's very, very good teams in the Championship, and we respect all of them. But at the same time, we have to really impose our strengths on anybody that we play.
Yeah, absolutely. Best of luck on Saturday, and I hope you all stay safe and well, and fingers crossed for that next batch of testing.
Thanks, Michelle.
Ali?
Hi, Lee. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, my friend. I can hear you.
Good. Feels like a week. I'll try not to repeat too many of Michelle's questions. Just on the test, when are you expecting that individual to be available to you again?
I think my belief is that it's 10 days. I think in isolation, as per government guidelines for professional athletes, and then I believe it's 2 absolute clear tests, negative tests, before they can return to training. So I let the powers that be and the organisation deal with that, and obviously my focus then becomes on who's fit and available and trying to get the best out of those players.
Yeah, and you convinced that it's as contained as it can be?
I am, yeah, I truly believe that. There's been some great work that's gone on behind the scenes, and I think the players certainly feel safe, given the fact that we've had a round of negative tests from the whole squad as well, and makes you feel like it's not sort of training ground orientated. It's probably something that's been picked up away from the training ground.
Yeah. In terms, expanding on the lack of a crowd and everything, have you thought about the fact that obviously your players are going to be able to hear you better now, the instructions, and maybe us commentators will be able to hear you as well?
Yeah, there'll be no excuse for copping a deafen, will there, anymore? I've had that a few times in my career. Yeah, I used to cop a deafen a lot to my dad when he was shouting me on the sidelines. Yeah, I think, listen, it's something that we've got to adapt to. Do I fear the challenge? No, absolutely not. I think the players have been absolutely top drawer in their mentality towards it. I haven't heard one grumble or moan or bit of negativity. It's very different. We've tried with crowd noise and without crowd noise. Actually, how you implement that crowd noise is important. Is it better to go without crowd noise? Obviously, you don't have much choice in it away from home, and it will be Blackburn's prerogative on what they do on that front, and we'll just adapt and deal with whatever we face. And we know Blackburn are a good side, but we also believe that we're in great shape, and it's up to us to prove it in this game.
Have you been told you've got to watch your language a bit more?
Well, I don't swear anyway. My nan might be watching this, Ali, you know that, and I wouldn't want her to twist my ear and send me to my room. So, now, listen, I think what's interesting is actually the reactions on the bench, because the TV haven't been able to use fans as a reaction point after a missed chance or sending off or a goal. The bench has become the first port of call. So yeah, I will just be myself, and hopefully I won't embarrass myself too much.
And just finally on the cardboard cutouts, I gather your dad's been desperate to find a way to get a ticket or a way to get into the game. Is a cardboard cutout the only way he's going to get in to see the game?
That's a good question. I went for a socially distanced barbecue on my birthday, and he was desperate to be a ball boy, because obviously, as you know, the ball boys are allowed in on an amber zone. So I had him getting down on one knee and timing him from one length of the garden to the other to see if he was up for the speed that we need to get the ball back quick enough. And unfortunately, he wasn't. So he'll be watching it on the link like everybody else.
Cool, nice one. All the best, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Hi, Lee. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing, Gareth? You okay?
Yeah. Good, thanks, mate. Again, I won't repeat what the others have said, but just in terms of your promotion chances, do you feel you're better placed now than you perhaps were when the season came to a halt back in March?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think we're in a much better place. Obviously, the new players are fully integrated. I think that becomes important. You know, our system of play is not necessarily a simple one. It takes 3 or 4 weeks at least to be able to bed in and understand the movements and the patterns. And I think just having players at full tilt, you know, people like Thomas Callas was still chasing fitness and physically, not in terms of his lungs, but in terms of his injuries. And now we've pretty much got a clean bill of health in terms of injuries and niggles, which puts us, I think, in a really good place, particularly with the fact that you've can now use 5 substitutes from 9. I think that becomes a really important dynamic and will be very interesting. And actually, I think will provide a lot of good entertainment for the viewer, because the tempo of the game will naturally stay higher.
You talk about Callas, the fact that you've got Benicophobe back as well, that really strengthen up the spine of your team?
Yeah, I think it's huge. You know, like clubs like ours, we're not one of the big hitters in the Championship. We haven't got parachute payments. We need our best players, our key players fit. Often those players down the spine are very important to a good performance. And then everything spreads from the quality of those performers. So again, players like Corey Smith in a very good place after a difficult sort of 18 months in terms of injury. So yeah, I feel confident that we've got the options. I feel confident that physically we're in a good place. And obviously it's about crossing the white line and being able to cope with the different circumstances and actually produce and perform in something that's quite unnatural to a seasoned professional.
Talking about Benicophobe specifically, not only his goals, is his experience, the fact that he's been in promotion battles to get out of the Championship and into the Premier League, like with Wolves a couple of years ago, is that equally as important as his goals will be at this stage of the season?
Yeah, without question of a doubt, the more experience you can have with promotion, whether it be out of League One or into the Premier League via the Championship, is really absolutely vital. And the positive attitude that Bennett brings as well, and his personality, is very infectious, and he has the ability to lift players and people around him. So we're so pleased for him. Obviously, it was tough to take for all of us, but more importantly, him in terms of his injury. But he's battled through. He's battled through some difficult family and personal circumstances, as everybody knows as well. And honestly, as a human, as a footballer, as a professional, I cannot speak any more highly of him.
You've obviously got the game against Blackburn. There's then an 8-day break until the next game. And then after that, it's pretty much 2 games a week. Feel the players are totally up to speed in terms of fitness? See any issues with that hectic schedule?
I think naturally there's going to be issues amongst the league. I think with so many games so quickly in such short proximity, we're going to have to deal with various situations and scenarios. But in saying that, like, our squad has got serious depth at the moment, which is good. I believe we've got a lot of young players that can run. I think that's important too. And it will be about executing in those moments. I also expect other clubs to be as professional as we've been as well and be fit. But it will be interesting. Often you get what's perceived as a freak result in the first sort of couple of games of the season. And I'm pretty sure it won't be any different in this spell.
Okay. Thanks very much for your time, Lee. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sam, please.
Hey, Lee, can you hear me?
Yes, how you doing, Sam?
Yeah, I'm all right. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Just a couple, because obviously everyone's asked all the actual useful questions. But just, I mean, firstly, you've talked a lot about fitness and how great it's been for the team's fitness to have a break. But also, isn't there a bit of a mental barrier that now they have to come back into competitive football?
I don't think so. I think that it's a positive mentally. I think, if anything, these boys are real competitors. You know, it would have been very difficult for them to be stuck indoors as much as they were. I think they've used that time extremely well, certainly the boys in our squad. And in terms of what we've asked them to do on a physical front and a mental front and a tactical front, they've been top. And obviously the technical side then comes into play when you can trust the fitness after you've tested. I don't mean COVID testing, I mean physical testing. And then you go from there. And what we have had to do, which has been interesting, is obviously piece together the jigsaw. Certainly one at the start socially distanced, but two in small groups. And that's been the challenge for the coaching staff, but certainly one that we've enjoyed and I think has actually worked well and probably taught us something moving forward.
And just one more. Obviously, the way that the last season finished, I mean, how much will that experience play a part in the finish to this campaign?
Yeah, I think we've got 27 points to play for and we can't leave anything on the pitch. You know, we've got to absolutely go for it. And we will do that, I can assure everybody. We can be really bold with our substitutes as well, given the number of subs, but also the quality and the dynamic that we can change the game with from the bench. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think like it's gone as well as could be, barring the one positive test. And the players are in a good shape mentally, physically, and we're absolutely raring to go.